Alright, I just want to do a little bit of an update here to give you an idea of what's been going on and what hasn't been going on, because they're going to be probably trying to use this at open house. And here's kind of the story. When they first asked me about this thing, they said, take as long as you need. It hasn't worked in 3 years, 3 or 4 years. It was, 2 years, 3 years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever it was. And there's been 3 or 4 people in it already and haven't been able to fix it. Okay. Well, that right there is kind of a scary fact. You say, oh shit. But don't worry about it, I got all the time in the world. Alright, so I picked it up mid to late April. And I brought it here and brought it in here the next day, put it up on here, and took the top off it. And I'm looking and I'm saying, okay, alright, where do I go? So I called 2 or 3 people that supposedly used it last. Now we're talking 2 or 3 years ago, so who knows who 3 or 4 years ago. So I called up one, and he says, I really don't remember what was wrong with it. He says, I think only one wheel was working, and it didn't work all the time, but I'm not positive. I called somebody else. Well, I really don't know. I thought it was working, but apparently it's not. But I know somebody was looking at it. But you should have all the paperwork on it. I said, well, there's no per se schematic. Something that gives you a parts layout, the parts, the values. I mean, that's all marked, but that's what takes the time. There was a block diagram in there, which is over there. It was some help, but so meanwhile, the first week, it was basically me just looking at this thing and gradually tearing it apart and trying to make some sense out of what's what. Because everything was a pain in the ass at this point. Was it the fuses? Well, where are the fuses? The fuses were in here. So which means you have to take this off in order to get to the fuses. Okay, now, so to change a fuse, if it was a fuse, you got to take the top off that, which is one thing, and then you got to take this apart, and you have to take all these off, and yada 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 yada. So now, when you start doing this, it's easy. Just un-Velcro it and unplug it. Hello, but when you start just unplugging wires, and it comes time to plug them in, and then you say, oh shit, there was that many wires that I unplugged. So you have to keep track and write down every move you make. I get inside, nothing's working. I'm looking, there's plugs, wires, who knows? Nothing's working. Alright. So I started going through the board with a meter, because I didn't have a schematic to tell me what functions worked what and this and that. I did have a block diagram, but then again, it's helpful to a point if things were working, but things aren't working. So anyway, I find 2 bad capacitors. They were burnt, blown, smoked. Okay, well, what made that happen? They're not a big deal, but something made them blow. So what happened? What else is bad? Don't know. Now this is, like I say, when I was told take my time, I put maybe 2 to 3 hours a day, maybe 3, maybe 4 days a week. I didn't spend a lot of time on it. It was like in between other things. Oh, let me work on Coastie, that type of thing. So I put 15 hours or so in it a week, on and off, because everything was a pain in the ass. First of all, I had to walk away from them a couple of times. Here's something that was really minor, but it takes time. And this is what happens. Right here. Batteries. First of all, we didn't have the batteries. I had no batteries for over a week and a half, almost 2 weeks. I had no remotes, no controls. Oh, wait a minute, I did have the remote and the control. We had no batteries, no chargers, no nothing. Alright, so that was almost 2 weeks later, because nobody knew where they were. So now, here's the battery charger. And now I got to find out what cord went with it, because everything was thrown in boxes. Well, this is the cord for that. Well, I plug it in. I hooked up the charger when I finally got it. I got the battery in it. I had the top off, so it was easy to do. It's not doing anything. Well, why isn't it doing anything? Well, the wires were broke off inside here. After I looked at it, I looked and the wire just popped right out of here. So, you know, just poop, because I was bending it like I am now. Okay, now, that little incident took over an hour, because I had to first plug it in, hook it up, check the battery, make sure everything's fine, plug the charger in. Oh, it's not charging. Okay, now why isn't it charging? The charger charging? Yeah, okay. Battery good? Yeah, oh, okay. It's got to be here. Oh, okay. Where is it? I find it. Now I got to fix it. All those little things just to get it so I can work on it took hours. You know, there was a bunch of all these little things, you know, and every little thing was a major thing. The capacitors, I replaced them, but I didn't want to do anything until I found out why they blew. I'm checking the switch, I find out that the main switch, right here, was wired backwards. Not backwards, wired wrong. Alright, it's charge and power. When I took it, I had to take all this off to get to that switch, because if you undo it here, you still can't get it out through the nightmare. So I had to take all this off. Everything was, this is bare. You've seen the pictures. So anyway, or the videos, I find that the switch is wired wrong. I said, okay, how's this going to get wired now? How's it supposed to go? Who did this? Again, 3 to 4 people were in it trying to fix it. Okay. So I get hold of tech support at the company. Guy answers the phone. He was a nice guy. However, I told him, I believe the switch is wired wrong. Can you tell me on the switch, you know, what the wiring could be? I don't know. You don't know. You don't know what the wiring is. This is what I'm thinking. You're tech support, and they don't know what the wiring is. So now that means I had to start tracing 5 wires to find out what went where, you know, which again takes time because I don't want to blow anything up. And then the switch was wired up, and it went up and down. It wasn't wired up and down, but they had it turned so it was up and down. And over here it says on, off, charge. Well, you can't see that nor read that when the top is on. Did somebody have it on charge thinking they had it on run? So it wasn't running, so they decided to take the switch apart? Who knows? I don't know. So I turned the switch sideways and I put this big yellow label on there, you know. Now this is the fault of the company. I mean, that's stupid. That's really stupid. All right? You know, you're charging $10,000, $12,000 for these things. Come on. You know. Anyhow, I got the switch wired right. Finally. That takes time. Now we got to start finding out where all these plugs are going and what's working and what's not working. Again, I'm only working on it a couple hours a day, 2-3 days a week, sometimes 4, depending on what I've got going. You know, we got housework we have to do, I had work in the yard I got to do. You know, the lawns have to get cut, the floor, I had a leak, the refrigerator went bad, we had to buy a new refrigerator. You know, we started ripping up the old floor, come to find out we found asbestos. You know, and all this takes time, you know. And at that point, it was just one thing after another. So these, I had to take all these off. I have no idea what's working. Now, I get the remote. The F14. This thing. This is what supposed to control that? Well, it's not working. Why isn't it working? I have to open it up to find out. Well, there's no battery. Well, where's the battery? I'm looking for the battery. There's no battery for it. I see a piece over here. Well, that tells me that it must be charged. You know, it charges. There's something there that charges the battery. Well, there's no charger either. So now what? I call the company. Says, oh no, it has a charger and a battery, a 9.6 volt battery, and plus a charger. Well, apparently that's not around. Can't find that. So again, that took a good part of 2 hours to look for this, find this, call the company again, wait for them to get on the phone, talk to them, again, talk to somebody that doesn't really know. I mean, he's doing his best, but he doesn't know. Or does he not want to know? You know, like, oh, just buy a new battery, or just send the unit to us, you know, that type of thing. So anyway, I found these 9 volt batteries. These are not for that. So I took 3 of them. Now the thing is, 9 volt will work on a 9.6 volt system, but it's going to draw amperage. So in order to get that amperage that I feel that I needed to make it last so I can use it for testing, I had to solder 3 batteries together and then solder them into here on the charger side. Yeah, again, there's another day gone. You know, when you're only talking 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day, you know, every little thing being a nightmare uses up time. But again, I didn't have to worry about it. Right? Now, I was told, buy what you need. Don't worry about it. You'll get your money back. Well, that was nice. However, I wasn't going to go out and just buy all new parts. It's not into me to do that. I'm going to try to fix it. You know, I mean, I could have very easily said, the board's not working right, when it was only 2 capacitors at 50 cents, you know, and a little bit of work, you know, tracing and things. But I could have very easily just spent $400 or $500 for a new board and plugged it in there. Does that mean it's going to work? Not necessarily, because there's other things that connect to that board that may not be. It may be the other things, you know, so you just don't want to start buying all new stuff. Let's find out why and what is bad. So anyway, I decided, luckily, not to spend any money and to do as much as I can with nickels and dimes and stuff that I have here. However, what I have here cost me. You know, I probably got about $25 into this thing in parts. Now, Ray came over one day, and which I appreciate. He was here for about an hour or 2, and after looking at this and blowing fuses, he's saying, I gotta go. I gotta go. He goes, let me take the radio parts with me. And then I gave him a couple of the bad ones that had crystals were rotted through the holes. There's videos on it. Everything. The boards were rotted out. So I was going to put a switch on there, not the factory switch, but a switch to make it work. And I was going to order a new crystal, which was 20 bucks, and I was going to get that working. Well, Ray says, let me take a look. Let me take them home with me. So he did. A couple weeks later, we meet for coffee, and he said, I found he said, I found a brand new receiver and transmitter right here on B channel, brand new, for 20 bucks. Well, the crystal was going to cost 20 bucks. So that's a good deal. You know, for 20 bucks, he got, again, we have all these things. He got a new system. So he had this, and those 2 pieces on the top over there that I was just touching. He meets up, he says, they're working. He hands them to me. I haven't had a chance to even check them, hook them up, or test them. I don't know. All right? They were working at his place within the system, that, you know, meaning within themselves, but are they going to work here? I don't know. He said, these are working. Okay, I plugged them in. Here they are. We got a power in, We got audio in. I believe this is an out. I marked everything. I didn't mark it, I guess, as in or out. I just didn't mark it that it went to the voice modulator or the voice modifier. You know, and things. I called the company on these things, and he tells me it was on 13.4 megahertz. 13.4 megahertz. You know, again, I'm talking to myself. I didn't say that to him. I write it down. I'm thinking, that's a ham radio frequency. They can't put this on a ham radio frequency. All right? But come to find out, after getting in it and things, I found out that it was actually on 203.400. So it wasn't 13.4. And it's on F channel to receive. So I labeled this down. And then I had to draw it all out so that I had something on it. There's a 37 pin plug over there that feeds the top of that. I have no idea. I had to start researching that. It showed the plug, and I had to go online to find out exactly where those pins were going. Luckily, I was able to find it, and then I had to redo it to fit this plug. So I have that done. All right, so I spent another probably 5-6 hours on a computer, you know, with the CAD doing, you know, a diagram that one can follow. The motors, I got them working. However, each motor has its own forward and backward through the remote over there. I got that working, so I was able to check that. See, I say it's one thing after another. You know, so I'm telling you why it's still here. You know, I mean, this is something that was going to be here. This was going to be here, in my opinion, until next April. You know, but anyway, we got that going. But I found in the interim of doing this, each motor had the exact same plug on it. And the plugs both go basically to the same location. So if you unplug them both to check them, if they happen to get moved around a little bit, you're going to plug them in backwards. And the left is going to be right, and the right's going to be left, and you're going to say, oh, you know, and then you're going to have to come over here and start plugging them in the other way again, you know, because the way they wire these things, again, for the money that they charge for these, you think they'd have a little common sense. Again, that's why I don't believe in that word, common sense. Because people just don't have it. Now, if you look down in there, by the way, see that black spot down in there? There's a white cap, and then up in the back, there's a black spot up against there. The front of this has been fixed and repaired before. All right, somebody did work on this before. So, and that's another thing. I'm out here working on this with the water thing there, and it's flopping around. The straps don't hold it. So I don't know why they're not holding it, other than I had to put a piece of wood under there to keep that up, and the straps to keep it back in place and tight. Again, every little thing was taking it. Back to the plugs. If we were to take the plugs, for instance, and do I have paper over here anywhere? Not really. Okay, so if I was to take the plugs, and let's just say we have this plug and this plug. It's a 2-pin plug. And on the other side, we have the opposite. We have this and this. So when you go like this, you're plugging them together. You follow me? Well, they put that same plug on both wheels, so they can plug into one another. All they had to do was take this one and put that one out, put this one in and put that one out, so that they plugged in separately, so they couldn't plug into one another. No. That's done. That's how people do these things. That's the way they do it, so you can't reverse them. So I had to paint them 2 different colors, so that if I take them apart, I'll have to go nuts trying to figure out, oh shit, they moved, which one went where. You know, so now whoever works on it sees blue is blue, red is red. You know, so you have a plug with red paint on it and a plug with blue paint on it. You put blue to blue, red to red, and you have left and right. The fuse box inside, an old glass fuse box. This is what they had in there. And then they had this power trunk running up, and then they had a separate one over here with it soldered on, and glass fuses buried down underneath this. Now, also, speaking of that, underneath this whole thing, there's a stereo board, an amplifier. You can't see it. That's why I had to take all this off. When I found that, I found it by accident because I was following a wire. And I thought, where's that wire go? So I stuck a snake camera down in there, and I found that there's an amplifier down there that's tied into a set of speakers that are down there. And there's speakers over on that thing. But meanwhile, I take this off, and that's what the fuse box says. I said, this is not going to happen. Somebody has this thing and something stops working because it blew a fuse, and all of a sudden they're going to put it away because they're going to say, well, where the hell's the fuse? Is it got a fuse box? You know, it's got a couple outboard fuses over here, but you know, that's not going to do anything with what they may have blown because all the main fuses were in here. So I said, okay, got to change that. I put the fuse box out here, and I'm using blade fuses. If a fuse blows, the light will light up. It'll let you know what fuse is bad. It's here where you can reach it. So I had to do that. That takes time. You have to lengthen the wires. You have to trace the wires. You have to make sure they're going to the right amperage fuses. You know, it's not something you just do. You know, you just don't wiggle your nose and snap your fingers. So this is why this is taking as long as it is to do. Now, I started making a little bit of headway to where the lights, I get them to turn on the main unit over there, but they don't turn off yet. So that could be a bad switch. I have no idea with the remote. The top light, the searchlight, that right there, was falling off because the screws were loose and nobody tightens up the screws. They duct tape it down. Oh, come on. You know, I mean, this is not the way you do things. So I had to fix it because it started cracking the fiberglass, and I had to fix the mount, and again, time. You know, it's not something that I just put up on the bench here and said, okay, punch the clock, 9 to 5, I'm going to work on it every day until it's done. It doesn't work that way. So anyway, that's another thing that had to get done. So it's always something. Now, this thing is not working right. This was falling off. The top was rusted in. The hoses were bad. Well, as long as I'm putting it together, I might as well fix what I can see. All right. Well, that was a 2.5 hour fix by the time I got done, because how you going to fill it? There was no way to put water in this thing. Well, how do you fill it then? There was no reversing on the pump to draw water, and if there's no water in it, it can't draw water because the hose goes right to the squirter. It was, again, poor planning on the factory, and when things went wrong, they didn't fix them, or they didn't have somebody to fix them, and it just got worse because the more people to get in it, the more it became a basket case. So now I go for coffee and I get the message about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Stop working on Coastie. There's no budget. They don't have any money. I said, well, Ray already spent 20 bucks. Well, we're going to get him his money back.